Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. It's the mission of all Christians to live out the gospel in our churches and in our daily lives. But in the real world, that's not always as straightforward as it seems. This short film is about how we as Christians should be handling the kind of questions that don't have easy answers. Questions that sometimes don't seem to have answers at all.
As Christians, we all want to see changes that will lead to a fairer, more peaceful world for everyone.
For us as individuals to influence decisions taken on the world's biggest issues is not only desirable,
it's realistic.
It's achievable.
Something we can pursue through prayer in our local churches.
And also by engaging in the debate at the highest political level.
Because faith and hope, however important, are not enough.
Strong beliefs need a strong voice if they're going to make a difference.
and we have that voice.
Jonathan Edwards is the General Secretary of the Baptist Union of Great Britain.
Some people think that politics are best left to the politicians. It's a difficult and dirty business, and it's better for Christians to keep well out of it. But I'm convinced that God calls us to be involved, for us to be salt and light in a society that's often tasteless and dark. It's really important for us to be involved locally, but also nationally. And with the help of Home Mission, that's exactly what we're doing.
Graham Sparks is the head of Faith and Unity for the Baptist Union of Great Britain.
Politics matters. The good of our society matters. And despite what you might think from reading the media, actually the Baptist Union, together with other churches, are constantly talking with government, with MPs. The kinds of things we talk about to government are often determined by the concerns of our local churches. For example, issues concerned with the treatment of asylum seekers, licensing laws, how they affect local communities, perhaps issues to do with domestic violence, and of course peace issues that are often of deep concern to Christian communities. What matters is that we're there as Baptists, sharing in the debate, learning, offering our perspectives. Not everyone will agree with what we have to say, but what matters is that together we try and seek the good of our society.
Rachel Lampard leads the Joint Public Issues team.
Baptist, Methodist and United Reformed churches are the largest group of free churches in Britain, and together they set up the Joint Public Issues team so that the churches can tackle the most important issues at home and overseas. The Joint Public Issues team looks outward, talks to government, people with power, but we also look at our churches to say, how can we help you to be active? I think people would be surprised to learn how much impact local churches can have at a national and international level. If an MP, for example, receives a letter from, say, 30 people, maybe the members of a church council, about a particular issue, they will then take that up with the Secretary of State, who may also have heard from other MPs who've heard from their constituents and so would pursue the issue. We may never get all the changes that we're looking for, but together we can make sure that issues of justice and peace are kept in the spotlight and we can achieve change.
But if we're going to deal with the big issues that affect us all, we have to be prepared to wrestle with the complex issues involved. Areas where there is little black and white and a lot of grey. Here we're going to concentrate on just one big question. Some might say the biggest of all. Peace, or more specifically, Trident.
Trident is a weapon system operated by Britain.
It has 3 parts.
Nuclear warheads.
The missiles to carry them.
And the submarines to launch those missiles.
In 2006, the Baptist Council voted to oppose the replacement for Trident when the system becomes obsolete sometime after 2020. On the face of it, voting for any move towards a world without nuclear weapons would seem an easy decision. But like so many big decisions, it wasn't that simple.
It's a very difficult issue for Christians to wrestle with because there are so many different ways in which peace could be achieved. We all know we want peace, but there are many different ways in which it could be achieved.
The nuclear weapons debate touches every single person on the planet, while for some the debate is quite literally on their doorstep. John Goddard is minister at the Abbey Road Baptist Church in Barrow-in-Furness, Cumbria.
Barrow-in-Furness in Cumbria is a great place to live. It's a town with a strong and clear identity. It's like many other working towns in the north. But our unique feature is that we build nuclear submarines in the Devonshire Dock Hall.
Once they built many kinds of ships here at Barrow, from frigates to supertankers. Now Barrow's maritime future, and the future of its highly skilled workforce, depends on submarines alone. Over 5,000 people work in the shipyard. Many more are employed indirectly as suppliers or subcontractors. If building submarines in Barrow came to an end, it's estimated that 9,000 jobs could be lost.
I came to Barrow about 8 years ago and quickly became aware of the sensitivities of discussing the rights and wrongs of being involved in the nuclear weapons industry. For so many people, it's their job, it's their livelihood, it's the town's heritage that's at stake. We became aware that the Baptist Union Council were going to be debating the replacement of Trident. And so we contacted Graham Sparks to ask whether he'd be interested in us as a local church with a particular interest in the subject to contribute to the debate. We invited people in the church to write down what they felt. Those 11 different submissions were then put together in a document, and we discussed that at a church meeting. 6 of the submissions were broadly saying we need to keep a deterrence. 5 of them were broadly saying it's time to disarm now.
As Baptists, we're deeply committed to what happens in the local church, and so we were profoundly interested in Baptist Union Council in hearing what the Church of Barrow had to say, and it was really helpful to us that they had done this survey so that we could understand the tensions and the way in which these issues were being handled locally.
We were pleased that our voices were listened to, that the council understood the importance of this issue to a town like ours where jobs and futures depend upon it.
For Barrow, an end to Trident could result in extreme hardship for the community. Does Council's decision mean that the likely impact on Barrow is a price we are prepared to pay on the road to nuclear disarmament?
Personally, I'm in favour of unilateral disarmament and unilateral disarmament now. But I've become fiercely defensive of the needs for jobs in this town.
Our Christian conviction is that peacemaking is central to our faith. That's non-negotiable. But exactly how you achieve that is inevitably a complex business.
We all want to live in a world at peace with itself. What we disagree about is the way that we're going to get there. And we also struggle to balance the different local, national and international needs.
It's clearly a healthy thing for us to engage in these big issues together. It's important for us to listen to one another very carefully. It's important for us to discuss them in a spirit of love and trust.
Phil Jump is the team leader for the North West Baptist Association.
Before I was a minister, I used to work here in that hall where the submarines get built. And so I know something of the tension between being involved in an industry that many people feel uncomfortable about, but also realising that that industry is crucial to the local economy, to jobs, and that there are many people within it who are trying to do a good job. There are two sides to the argument, and let's face it, Trident is a pretty destructive thing. But a lot of the technology that goes into it goes into things like this, like my mobile phone or your sat-nav. And this stuff can be used for good, it can be used for evil, and I don't think we can just criticise the equipment. We've got to ask, why is it as human beings we want to wage war? Why do we want to build weapons of destruction? If we're not asking those questions too, you can't just condemn the technology.
Of course, peace isn't just about an absence of war. It's about finding a secure and sustainable future for everybody. But nuclear weapons don't make a safer world. What we have to try and look at is the underlying reasons and how we can find true security. There are two ways that we might look at this issue. The first is to look at the international treaties that make violent conflict much less likely. So through the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, for example, and the inspection regimes that go with it. The second is to look at the root causes of global insecurity. Poverty, indebtedness, climate change all increase insecurity within countries and between countries. And it's really vital that we tackle these kinds of issues as a way of creating more security in the world so that we don't need nuclear weapons.
So how should our local churches approach the world's biggest issues?
I think sometimes we can think as local churches, this is not something we can get involved in, we can't make a difference, but we can.
When I look back at the Make Poverty History campaign, I think it was a wonderful example of the way in which ordinary people lifted their voices on behalf of the poor.
I believe we need to face these great issues with humility. We don't have all the answers. We need to listen to one another, we need to pray, we need to open the scriptures, we need to listen to our society.
Local churches can make a difference. We do have a voice. And if we will speak up, then that will strengthen the voice of our national resource as well. And organisations like the Public Issues team will be better able to speak on our behalf.
In our work on Trident, churches speaking out, speaking with their MPs, is leading to a top-level reconsideration of the practical steps that are needed to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons.
I hope that you've been encouraged by this short film. I find that people are often surprised but always delighted when they hear that we're engaged with these difficult issues at a national level. But we all need to be involved. Our priority is to be involved in prayer. But we also need to discuss these issues together. We need to get involved in our local communities, maybe as a councillor, maybe as a school governor, or in a myriad of other ways. The fact is that God isn't just interested in a small group of Christians, He's interested in the whole of society. And so it's vital that we all get involved as missionary disciples in these great issues.